Welcome to this new episode of The Disabled Life. The purpose of this podcast is to tell people how I live my life. The name I'm using on the podcast now is The Disabled Guy, because I felt that you needed to hear something as opposed to just my voice there. I'm a disabled male living in Florida with cerebral palsy. I'm here to tell you how I live my life and some of the volunteer work that I do and how I manage to do it with cerebral palsy. Without further ado, let's go into the episode. I'm going to tell you something that I didn't believe till two incidents happened to me. Adults can be bullies. Not only children can be bullies, adults can be too. The reason I say that, I felt I was bullied by people. Let me give you two examples of it. The first example, it was when I was doing volunteer for a county. I am disabled. It was difficult for me, but I still went out and did it. So, at first, we started having meetings at parks, and at one of the leaders' houses. But then, because it was easier for them and easier for me, they decided to move the meetings to my house, which was fine. Everything went fine for a long time. So Mom would cook them dinner, and we would all eat together. It was nice because it was camaraderie. So okay. So fast forward a year. Then one of the leader. Let me go this way. The original leader that put me in the team, that brought me on as a fate, was still always in. So it was always in. It was fine. Then the president of the organization had decided that he was going to go to the military for some reason, and he left. So we had a young, inexperienced leader. So then I'd called for I was going to be given some batteries, and I also had a problem with one of the members. So what I did, so logically, you call the person with the leadership, and you tell them, hey, this is going on, this needs attention. So for some reason, the guy that brought me into this organization didn't have his own phone, which I don't understand. An adult without a home phone or a cell phone that he can use? That made no sense. Or that he wanted us to use? That made no sense. Even as a disabled person, I have my own phone. So then, okay. So then I called, and this was one of the problems was fixed. And for some reason they thought, man, look, this is the mom. So they blocked me. They blocked me from my home phone. Okay. I said, okay, this is a problem. And I had told the leadership prior, I said, look, I don't call him much because of this. I don't. But I called that day just to say hello to see how things were going on. So I was blocked. So then I found out that I was blocked. So I said, maybe on accident they did it. So I called from my cell phone. And his mom answers the phone, asks for the person. I'm not going to use any names. And she goes off and curses me out and does this. So I'm like, okay. It's intentional. So I'm like, okay, I'm not calling him anymore. So that's fine. I kind of dealt with that. Then sorry about the airplane. So then I notified in a meeting that I notified him in the meeting that I called once and I was blocked only once, because that's logical. That's a way of defending yourself. Okay. So this continues, and the same guy continues to say that I'm calling him, even though I have a cell phone I can call him on. But why do that? Because by law, if you're blocked, by Florida law, if you're blocked on one phone number, you can't call because then it's harassment. You can call once, and then if you find out that if they say something or if they curse you out, it doesn't matter. You say, okay, no. But the law to me doesn't matter. Because when somebody tells me not to do something, I don't do it. It's out of respect for that, Mike. I won't do it because that's right. So this continues on, and they keep telling me that his mom keeps saying I'm calling, and he keeps he comes to me one day, and I'm 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times, and I'm like, no, I got mad. I honestly got really upset. I'm not proud of this. I'm not proud of what I did here, but I felt that it had to be done. There was no other option. And this needed to stop. I was fed up. It needed to just stop happening now. So when he said that, because I already knew that I was blocked, and I knew I wasn't calling him, and he knew. And I said to her, in the meeting, I said, you know what? I told him your mom's a bitch. I'm not proud of saying that, but I did say that. Because it gets to the point where you're like, no, this is frustrating. So in there, I decided, okay, I left him. I accidentally went away, left, and told him, I don't need you, you need me. So that was that. Now for story number 2, which is a little more, which is a little different, but I was having the same type of issue. Okay, let me go back and tell you this one. This story starts when I meet a hypnotherapist, a female hypnotherapist, and I was having stress, and and I said, okay, I'll ask her, and we talked about it, and she agreed to take me on as a client. So I went there, whatever. Things happen, and then, it's just, so one thing you have to be careful of in these things is what I call partner jealousy. I'll say that word, partner jealousy, that phrase. You'll understand what I mean by that phrase. That phrase means, so what happened was, she was treating me, everything was fine. So I went over, so she recommended I went over to him. I tried that for a little bit. That didn't work out too well. So I went back to her again, and okay. But here comes the big problem. So here comes a problem. So what happened was so we were friends. He didn't like the fact that we were friends, I can tell you that. He didn't like the fact that she and I were friends. So he was making my life a living heck. So, so it got into a problem where she and I had to separate. I couldn't handle it. It was just not right. I couldn't handle it. I was going to spiritual things. I was going to a spiritual spiritual conferences that he was leading, and I went there and I realized that's not. So then I broke everything. Got broken off. I stopped going to the conferences. Whatever. I stopped everything. So I had his wife's number because one time I went there and there was nothing. And it was after I decided to change back to her again. So it was, so they gave me the number and I called and checked a few times. Everything was fine. So then, when I ended all this, he thought that I was chasing after the girl, and I don't know where that came from, because I was not doing this. This was not right. I wasn't doing this. So this has been my platonic friend. So everything was over. I stopped talking to her because I didn't want this to continue. All of a sudden, I had her number in my phone. This was my mistake. I did not take the number out, and I accidentally dialed it. What I mean by an accidental dial is, when I had these phones work in this way. If let's say I have to call a friend of mine, I push a button and I find the number. If when the number shows up on my screen, whether I either pick up my phone or press the speakerphone, that thing will dial that number that's on the screen. So I accidentally dial her number. It was in my screen. I didn't mean to call her or anything. It just popped up on my screen because I thought it was somebody else. I just grabbed the phone and used it. It happened to me the other day with my sister, but that's okay. But I'm just giving an example of how that easily can happen. So that I called my sister on accident, but I talked to her. So back to the story here. So I told her, I say, "Oh, sorry, I called you." Boom, hang up. It freaked me out because I'm that lady. So then my quote friend calls me up and says, "I don't like what's going on. Don't call me anymore." Blah, 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 whatever. So I don't do that. So I said, "Oh my God, this has been 3 months already, or 3 to 6 months already," and I'm like, "What the hell?" Sorry for the bad words there, but no. So I'm like, "What the hell?" So I'm like, I gotta fix this because I'm afraid. In Florida, the law is, if somebody tells you not to call them, you can't call them, but they can't turn around and call you, because then that's harassment on you. So I'm like, I'm gonna use the law to my advantage. So I had the guy's phone number, cell phone, but I did not want to use that. I wanted to use, so I called the office number that I still had. So he came, because I was afraid. I was afraid of this guy, because what's he gonna do? 3 months, 6 months after this, after everything is ending, I'm still dealing with this. So I'm like, it was over, but he started again. So I call him, and he says that he threatens me with the police or whatever. But I'm thinking, okay, I didn't say anything to him. He said, "Don't call him back, or I'm gonna call the police. Be police problem." But what he didn't know was that the phone number was already out. His wife's phone number was already out of my phone. So there was no way I would call her. The reason I did that is I wanted to have the protection of being advised by him not to call. Because if he would call me, I would turn around and I would be able to turn around and say, call the police on him and say, "He's harassing me. This is what he's doing." Because this isn't right. It's something that I thought about hard and well before I talked to you guys about it. But I wanted you to know, because this is how in Florida we handle it. I don't know the laws in other states, but in Florida it's cut and dry like that. It's something that people shouldn't do. Because I have a philosophy. If you're telling me not to call, I don't have to worry about the police. Because the police, to me, because I will respect, if out of respect for the person, I will tell them not to call. And I will call them. They don't have to tell me. They don't have to tell me this. Another thing that happened, another weird thing, I've had a couple weird things happen in my life, and that's something I don't need to be dealing with. But you know what? If the problem is not yours, sometimes people don't get it. sometimes people don't understand what you're trying to do, or they think, or they assume that you're harassing people or you're doing things that you're not supposed to be doing. I don't know, but anyway, it's something crazy. But sometimes spiritual people want to manipulate you. Don't let that happen. Honestly, it happened to me in this therapeutic relationship where I allowed myself to be manipulated by him until I noticed that it wasn't good. And that's when I left. But it was too late. A bunch of stuff happened, and it was just, but I realized at that point, I'm not going to let nobody manipulate me. Piece of advice here, don't. I'm not saying don't go into spiritual environments, but also don't allow yourself to be manipulated by those leaders, because some of them are so good at doing it. Some of them are, and it's a shame. It's a shame, because some of this stuff is beautiful, and the conferences that they put up are beautiful, and you spend time with people. But man, sometimes they can take it to the other. They can take it to the other way where you feel harassed, and when they start doing all these things. This is something that I'm gonna. I don't know. Yeah, it's because what they do is. This is my opinion and my opinion only. A lot of these spiritual leaders, let me call them that. A lot of these spiritual leaders use that the excuse of trying to help you, but they end up manipulating you. But you can't have blinders on like I did at the time. I don't have blinders on anymore. I now know how to deal with this. I can tell and see it a mile away, because I've had these experiences for two to three times. Twice I've had this. No, sorry, 3 times I've had this happen. And I'm not gonna let it happen to me again, because no. But man, no, this is terrible. With that, guys, if you want to go into a spiritual environment, go into conferences, more power to you. But please be careful. Just be careful. Take it from me. It's not easy to find. It's not easy to see at first, but you'll see it, man. I saw it and I don't like it. And to this day, I wish I could go back to certain classes, but because I feel manipulated, I don't know. It's something that I don't want to deal with anymore. It's difficult. It's hard. It's something that I feel strongly about. Go do what you want to do, but don't let people manipulate you. In closing, let me say thank you for listening to this episode of The Disabled Life. You can follow me on the following platforms. You can follow me at Good Pods. You can leave comments, messages there. You can also follow me on Twitter at The Disabled Guy. And you can also listen to me on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, and many others. Once again, thank you for listening, and I'll also give you my email. My email is Kilo Echo 4 Kilo Echo Yankee, or KE4KEY@gmail.com. Once again, thank you, and thank you for your support, and I'll see you next week. Let me say in closing, when I did that outro, I did not know that people could also follow me and rate me on Spotify. I would really appreciate a rating there, and also I would appreciate a 5-star. I would appreciate comments and ratings on Apple Podcast also. With that, I'll see you next week.